Okay, Simon, I guess the question that is on everybody's lips is, what have you been watching?
All right, I'm going to zing through these because actually it's an interesting bunch of films. Also in cinemas this week is The Three Musketeers, D'Artagnan. Now, this is a very lavish, very big budget French movie that stars a whole lot of people who you'd be very familiar with if you are a fan of French cinema. Let me run names by you like Romain Duris, Vincent Cassel, one Eva Green, who's playing Milady, a very wicked woman, Vicky Creeps, who's in there, who we know from so many good films, and Lena Kudry, who plays Constance Bonnechou. These are all major French stars who are turning up for what is, I believe, a three-part. I may be
Two,
corrected there.
two-parter.
Um, Two-parter of the Three Musketeers stories. For someone, I've got a real affinity for the Three Musketeers films. I remember seeing the Richard Chamberlain version many, many years ago. Michael York was in that as well. And then, of course, who'll ever forget the version starring Oliver Platt and Charlie Sheen, which was for a generation the most famous of the Three Musketeers films. Who was the other one then? Chris O'Donnell, and I can't remember who the other one was. I think it was
Oliver Platt.
Shelley Winters. Who?
Oliver Platt was in those.
Yeah, Oliver Platt, yeah. But this one is given a very serious, very lavish production in cinemas now through Palace Films, so you know it's going to be French. The real standout star here is Eva Green as Milady, and it's her character that takes focus in the second film, which I think is just around the corner in terms of it getting a release here in Australia. So if you love your big period epics, your big costume dramas, your swashbuckling, get along to see the Three Musketeers. We know after centuries and centuries of adaptations and reading the books that it's a great way to spend a couple of hours. And this is a great way to spend a couple of hours. I'm going to run through mine very quickly here, Dan.
Well, sorry, I was gonna very quickly say the two films were very modestly budgeted, but they were filmed back to back to try to extract as much money out of it as possible, as much production value out of it as possible. But yeah, I'm also super keen to check these out, so I might see if I can get along to one early next week.
Did you have much fondness for the Charlie Sheen version?
Look, I mean, obviously, but look, as a man of literature, I quite like the original book from Mr. Dumas
Oh, well,
back in the
look at
day.
you.
Mm.
Coming to Netflix, actually, as we record this, just debuted on Netflix, is a documentary called Power. Now, this is a film that tracks the rise of militaristic methodology used in the American police force and the origins of attitudes that still pervade the US policing system. As an avid documentary watcher, I've seen quite a few of these films that position the American police force as a sidearm, as a, no pun intended, of big business, white supremacy, upper class American society, white people, basically, and how it impacts the African American, Latino communities in the US. This is quite an academic film. There's a lot of talking heads in this, but they've got some really powerful and interesting things to say. It's a film that certainly does rattle the cage in terms of how we've allowed police to pretty much police themselves. There's no overarching legislation either on a state or federal position in the US that tracks what the police do or keeps them in some kind of check with regards to their actions or use of force, and that's now reaching a boiling point, and has for some time. Power is a really disturbing and, as the title suggests, powerful documentary. It debuts on Netflix after after a festival run late last year. And the other movie and the other TV show that I watched on Netflix this week is this really cute and funny little sort of murder mystery type thing called Bodkin, which is the new Will Forte film. He plays a podcaster who turns up in the small Irish town of Bodkin to recount for his true crime podcast a 20-year-old multiple murder. Along for the ride is Siobhan Cullen as a British journalist who, as an Irish journalist, who's been kicked out of London while an investigation into her actions is undergoing. And they make this very odd couple pairing who suddenly find that this small town is full of dark secrets. There's a great chemistry between the three leads. There's another young lady whose name I'm going to get right, Robin Cara. She plays Emmy, and she plays Will Forte's offsider researcher, young researcher. And the chemistry between these three is great. The local flavour in the Irish small town is also terrific. Lots of humour. Second episode stumbles a little bit, but by the third episode, I was still giggling and getting into the mystery of it. So this is a really easy and a really enjoyable watch. Will Forte continues to be one of Hollywood's most likable and engaging on-screen performers, and Siobhan Cullen as Dove is terrific opposite him. So Bodkin is on your Netflix right now.
Yeah, I've seen the first 2 episodes of it. I thought it was fine. I didn't find it that charming. Also, I don't really like Will Forte, so, just putting that out there.
Jeez.
I
love my Will Forte.
Yeah, well, doesn't mean you're right. Hey, a couple of things I've been sort of burning through of late. John Mulaney, Everyone in LA. This was the live streamed talk show that's like the sort of late night style talk show that John Mulaney was doing for Netflix. There were 6 installments of it, and I thought this was an absolute delight for a couple of reasons. One, it was live. The problem with a lot of these late night TV programs is they're all pre-recorded, and it just loses a sense of energy and a little bit of currency and value to it.
Totally agree.
Even if you're watching this, after the live events, you can still feel as though there's just an energy. The fact that they know they're going out live, there's an element of danger is probably not quite the right word, but there is a sense that anything could go a little bit wrong. And you also get a sense that things aren't necessarily being edited out. So probably the standout episode is the one with David Letterman appearing on it. And there's a comedian who, I think her name is like Luann or Luell or something like that. I didn't really know her. She apparently plays Vegas a fair bit. But anyway, she comes out and she's has like maybe about 3 or 4 minutes where she completely owns the stage and she's hilarious and everybody is very much with her. Okay, she doesn't sort of take that idea that, once you've, hit the room, you want to get out as quickly as possible. She should have, by all rights, probably retreated into the background a little bit from the conversation and just traded off that for the next couple of years, because I think she made herself a star in that moment. But then she kind of just let it keep on going. But what was great is that on any other talk show, they probably would have edited out some of the segments with her later on. But she just kept on going at her, and she was seated next to Dave Letterman, which I think was a bit of a thrill for her. And it just felt very human in a way that you just don't see from these programs because they are so tightly edited and pre-planned out. So
is
that's
Mulaney,
really fun.
is Mulaney gearing up, given his appearance on the Oscars this year and his bit about Field of Dreams? Is he sort of firming as a potential, if not an Oscar show host and an award show host in the years to come?
Look, if he's not hosting the Oscars next year, I'd be very, very surprised.
But anyway, feels like it, yeah.
Yeah, let's see. But anyway, Mulaney, this is a 6-episode engagement. They're not talking about it coming back, but I do hope it comes back in some form because it was fantastic. Also, really, really lavish sets. You watch something like, actually, any of them really except for Colbert. Colbert, they spent a lot of money doing that refurb on the Ed Sullivan Theatre. But watch any of the rest of them, and they all feel very sort of cheap and nasty. This was a big, expensive-looking, lavish set. But even though it was big and lavish-looking, it doesn't necessarily mean that it was like sort of overly opulent to the point of distraction. Rather, it felt very sort of comforting and warm, and it was one of those great late-night sets. I really like it, and I encourage people to give it a bit of a look, even if they're not entirely into it. Oh, and Richard Kine's the announcer on it. Like, you don't get better than that. The last couple of weeks I've been talking about my rewatch of Evil. I finished that up now. I'm now primed for the show when it returns back next week. So guess what I'm going to be talking about a week or so away from now on the podcast. Strap yourself in. If somebody can talk about season 26 of Doctor Who, a kids' TV program, I'm going to talk about something for grown-ups, Simon. But anyway.
You are going to get, Dan Barrett, you are going to get emails from the legion of Doctor Who fans who do not think it's a kids' TV show. And I just want to put that out there that I'm on the side of the Doctor Who fans, and please direct your emails to one Dan.Barrett. I won't give out your email address, but do go on.
Yeah, Dan at alwaysbewatching.com. Hit me up, people. Hit me up. Reality is, if you read the Always Be Watching newsletter, for the last however many years I've been doing it, anytime I talk about Doctor Who, I will refer to it as the kids' TV program, and I hear from people every time I do it. It's fantastic. It feeds me. It's like wrestling.
How many people have you heard from with regards to Evil?
More than you'd think, but less than I'd like.
All right. So, what else have you been watching?
Okay, the other thing I just wanted to throw out to was there was a lot of talk from me and other people about the return of Jon Stewart to The Daily Show. What has been fascinating about the return of Jon Stewart to The Daily Show from a business perspective is that for the rest of the week, the ratings have been up for that as well. So everybody has come back to watch The Daily Show. It's like viewership is like, about 15 times what it was while Trevor Noah was hosting it. Okay, and so that's just for the Jon Stewart episodes. While the viewership isn't as high for the rest of the week, it's still up dramatically from what it was doing. And one of the reasons why I think it's doing so well is that the current crop of correspondents they've got on there are all really, 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 really good.
Yeah,
You've got
agreed.
Jordan Klepper, Ronnie Chang, Michael Costa,
Ronnie Chang's very
Desi.
funny.
What's that? Sorry.
Ronnie Chang is very, very funny, and the ads that he does for Uber are also very, very funny.
No, they're all really, really funny, which is kind of what's particularly notable and why I just want to talk about it. Also, Desi Lydic, who is the blonde, sort of bubbly voiced lady on it, she is the best of the lot of them. She is absolutely incredible. She's hosted it this past week, and legitimate laugh out loud jokes. She's got a perspective which is entirely different to any other late night show host that you've seen or any of the rest of the group. When you're watching the group, you can kind of see Jordan Klepper and Michael Costa, and they kind of cover very sort of similar ground. Ronnie Cheng's not that far removed from either of them either, but she's just entirely different with her approach and just the things that she's interested in. Like, it's a very different show when she's hosting it, and I've been enjoying the heck out of it this past week. But when your weakest of the group is Michael Costa, like, you're onto a winner, because even though Michael Costa's the weakest, he's still really, really good. This is the best the show has been in probably 20 odd years. And that includes like when Old Mate was hosting it previously. Like, it is on such a good run at the moment. If you're not watching The Daily Show on a daily basis, like, you really are missing out.